felony of incarcerated, and if they spit or throw violent fluid, again, that's typically a misdemeanor, but based on your HIV status, sometimes based on your hepatitis status, it's going to be a felony level condition and add years onto your sentence. So we have states that have HIV specific laws, and this map is on our website for anyone that wants to access it, HIVlawandpolicy.org. So it's color coordinated to just show you what states criminalize HIV and how they criminalize it. As you see on the darker color here, I'm talking about states that have HIV specific criminal laws. So it either specifically names HIV in the criminal code, or the definition of communicable disease is broad enough to encapsulate HIV. The sentence enhancements we just discussed are going to be in the yellow, and then in the red, states can also prosecute people living with HIV under their general criminal code. So when I'm talking about the general criminal code, I'm talking about things that are aggravated assault, where they're going to classify HIV as a deadly weapon. So just having HIV is considered a deadly weapon, and they're going to use it for aggravated assault, using bioterrorism laws, attempt murder. So even states that don't have HIV specific criminal laws, it's be very dangerous for people living with HIV, depending on what charges the prosecutors bring. And oftentimes they are overcharging, and especially knowing that people are going to plead, even if it's for lesser charges, it's going to be something with a high felony level sentence. So that's just kind of setting the stage for us. I want to note that on this map, we haven't, it's coming, but we have not updated it to reflect any sort of laws that were passed this legislative session. So I want to recognize that on May 17th, with the governor signed Senate Bill 0807. And this basically removes the crime of criminal exposure to HIV from the list of violent sexual offenses where conviction would require an individual to register on the sex offender registry. You're going to be my but still accurate because Tennessee can still require someone to register as a sex offender if they're convicted under an abrogated constitution. So even though this hasn't been reflected for the new law, it does still apply. We still do have sex offender registry because of that aggravated prostitution. Even though we've talked a lot about HIV criminalization and those that oppose it in these spaces, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that there has been more movement for public-facing entities and organizations to support ending HIV criminalization. These are just a few of the organizations that have now released statements opposing HIV criminalization. This is so important to the work that we do because it helps us when we're talking to legislators and prosecutors who like to look at this type of information and know who's supporting our efforts. The Positive Justice Project consensus statement has been used in quite a few states to be reflected in reform efforts. It's basically a consensus among organizations and individuals living with HIV and those working for sexual health, public health, racial justice, LGBTQ+ rights, to talk about what we want to see in HIV reform efforts. I won't list all of them, but no disease-specific criminalization, no felonies, requiring transmission, requiring intent to transmit, and requiring that it be coupled with conduct that is likely to transmit, trying to be after both sides. So, into the meeting that we're going to talk about some of the states that have reformed. I have a timeline up here. Next slide is a continuation of the timeline. We also all received this in your welcome package to find that. What it does is it lays down what states have reformed, a brief synopsis of how they have reformed, and what year they reformed. We also have before and afters on our website that will go into state-specific detail, and it will tell you what the law was previously and how it changed. So if you want more information on a specific state and you don't see it covered here, please go to our website. I would pull out just 3 states to show you the complexity and range of reform efforts that we've seen, to give you kind of an idea of what states have done. So Texas was the first state to repeal its HIV specific law in 1994. Illinois and New Jersey have followed since. So it's not a widespread approach to repeal HIV specific laws, because you can still be prosecuted in those states that repeal under the general criminal code. And again, this is when a prosecutor can pull out any charge that they think fits the elements of the crime. So if they think that what you did is attempted murder, they can pull that out and charge you with it. Having a sexual assault, if they think what you did meets the elements of that crime, they can charge you with it. So Texas is kind of a lesson in what can happen if you repeal and there are no other legislative language in place to offer protections to people living with HIV. It also broadens the scope of activity that can be criminalized to include not only sex, but spitting, biting, and other modes of exposure to bodily fluids. It also means that HIV status can be taken into consideration for sentencing. And they can, again, increase your punishment based on your HIV status. And this was a part of an omnibus crime package in order to get this bill across the line. California, for a long time, California was the template for how to do HIV criminal law reform, because they were the state that kind of set the example for everyone. They were able to modernize the felony exposure law. They were able to include an intent to harm, substantial risk of harm, and misdemeanor rather than felony. It's no longer HIV specific. And kind of eliminating some of the other barriers, including unfair impact on sex workers, repeal of organ and blood donation. There is a increased penalty for underlying sex crime in your HIV status, so something for a person with HIV. Last thing I'm going to talk about in Nevada, because Nevada is very different in how they approach their reform. They had a advisory task force, which is not something that every coalition tries. Basically, the task force was created statutorily, so they had this passed legislation in order to create the task force, and they identified and reviewed and evaluated the current statutes and regulations that were in Nevada, and then they made recommendations for how to improve this. And after the task force made these recommendations, they were able to repeal their HIV criminal offense in 2021, and they were able to maneuver through the public health code, which is also something that's a little different. In the public health code, I think the most important thing is that they were able to say the threat of people is best addressed through the public health measures rather than criminalization. So important to put that in there, yes, because then lawyers can argue that in court if they ever try and bring something new. This is why language matters. This is why language is so important. But like, that's New Jersey as well. New Jersey is different because they repealed their HIV specific law in 2022. Third state to do so. But while it eliminates specific records of HIV and other communicable infections, it allows for prosecutions to continue under New Jersey statute that criminalizes endangering another groups. So a person may be charged if they engage in conduct that poses a substantial risk of transmission. So and the range of punishment is going to differ depending on if it's reckless or knowingly. So this is also a different approach that we don't always see. So I wanted to make sure that I have New Jersey as well. There's been a major movement for the growing need to end HIV criminalization. It's been a priority for the White House more than it has been in the past. Coalitions across the country have been mobilizing, building power, and challenging HIV and criminalization. And it's a racial justice issue, that LGBT rights issue, a public health issue, and an issue that we know primarily affects poor, low-income, already marginalized Black and Brown communities. We have data that shows that. We know exactly what it affects. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to us. CHLP, we reach out to the record as well. If we have
No, well, I think we're very, discussion stage.
Oh, sure. Since, thank you, Jada, for that brief overview of the movement thus far. So since we're here at Highland, usually the first things people do is go back home and get the coalitions going. So I'd like to ask the panel this general question, and maybe you can respond. How did you center the communities most impacted and harmed by HIV criminalization laws in your coalitions?
Would it be helpful as you get into, you introduce, like, what's the coalition you part of and how the results you did?
Sure. First, Timothy Jackson, pronounced Ian is, but Illinois HIV Action Alliance and also AIDS Foundation Chicago. How we center the communities is always making sure who's at the table. And that this is not a Boston done this. That you're constantly making sure that all of the communities that are most impacted by these statutes are at the table. And I would be the first one to tell you, we were able to get a long path in Illinois, where the coalition did not always represent the community impact. And so that's one of my greatest kind of regrets, that there were not more members from the Latin community, from the trans community at the table. There was some, but not me. Not liking, and so that to that end is how do we get more people at the table, and not just at the table, but involved in the decision making. We don't want to go out, sometimes you sit in some of these rooms and you're, okay, well, we have, a black gay guy from the table. We have a black sister. No, that's not it. You need to make sure you have, a lot of people there with diversity of thought and experience, allowing them to use their lived experience to really kind of move the coalition's efforts forward.
Hi, everybody. Cedric, Pulliam, he, him pronouns, and co-founder of the ECHO VA Coalition. And of course, part of the great host committee for you all here in my next I think very similar to Timothy's responses. We've tried our hardest. I mean, when I tell you, we went through our Rolodexes, we went through organizations, old and current, and even being discussed and brainstormed. We went to every corner of the state too, because Virginia here is a very variety in geography state. You have metropolitan, it's transient to Washington, D.C. or North Virginia. You have a central Piedmont area. You have areas that's very rural, that's right next to West Virginia. Here in the Tri-Cities area, as well as Southern Virginia. So we wanted to ensure that we looked at the rural health plan and looked at, more transient metropolitan areas, but then looking at intersectionalities of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression was also a huge component. So we wanted to work with the statewide SWAP chapter and talk with reproductive justice organizations like Planned Parenthood of Virginia, and looking at legal women voters, Virginians, others, and it really spread the word in 2018, right out behind Act 3 in Indy, and started just doing that communication, to see who would be interested. Just like the Illinois example, we didn't get all of the results we wanted, but we continuously, even now that we modernize, continuously reach out and update those same organizations, even if they don't have a member in our coalition. I think we think it's actually relevant that they still receive the updates and information. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And Timothy, you touched on the representation, Black and brown people with HIV representation leadership. I think it's centering the most effective communities. Could you, either of you, really elaborate on the resources, or if there were any, or tactics used to center as reach out and to those communities?
Hello, Flomichelle, Pulliam, H&M, Indiana.
I think that, I think that, Dr. Gary and Mark have done a great job and making sure that they can be, Indiana has representation from the trans community, from the Latinx community, from the Black community.
Yeah.
We also have representation from different parts of the state. So I think they were very intentional to make sure that they were bringing everyone into the table to have this conversation.
Yes. Just a little bit more about how.
So, I mean, like,
How did it connect to you? How did you like, oh yeah, I'm.
well, for me, it was just so I have Mark that every time he sees me, he goes, "Well, I want to have a conversation with you." Should we have to talk? I'm like, sure, Mark, we can talk. So it's like, he just started to, really just educate. It wasn't something that I was following, it was like I was kind of in my corner. We just worked out what's going on with trans people. And so Mark was like, look at this intersectionality, and so it's like he just really educated me. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that like this is the case. Like it affected me, you know what I'm saying? And so I think he just made it personal, like in his education. And so, and I would be willing to say, because Mark is very clever, that he could probably cater his conversations to each one of us to make sure that it connected with us.
It's part of the representation in the charge of the they don't see those days. Indiana got a whole thing for. Mom and dad doesn't even. If you are from Virginia, say it. Hey. Well, but I'm saying a part of. And we're in Virginia.
Oh, that is.
Okay, so let me see that again. Indiana. Bring back. Hey. That's those up there. My parents were actually there at our first Plenary. Those are the only two people that are here. We got a problem. And a lot of that is coming from stigma. Because we still did feel. I will be honest, I know that some people have experienced things on campus. From some of the people that are on campus that are outside of us. Yeah. Oh, Lord, I would like to get back in.
This got it, girl. This got it, girl.
In Virginia. What we did is we spent after 2018, we spent the entire 2019, 2020, going to every conference, going to every gathering, going to every place that we could to raise awareness about what is going on in Virginia. Yes, we use every network that she has. Dr. Cedric Pulliam uses every network that we have across Virginia. We don't want to get involved. It's gonna impact either our personal lives, I know other people's ones, I don't want to tell my story. I don't want my family to know. I don't want my job to know. I don't want even myself. to know. So some folks may say, because I know, I don't, the cost became that Cedric and I had to become the face of all of this. And I wish Lydia was here because she made a mention about how some of us have to step up and set the trailblazers. And no team, no shame, some of y'all in this decriminalization communities have shown a lot of shame in some of the work that we had to do. But we had to do what was best for our state.
That's all of them, because I think there's a difference in state and coalition development that we highlight here. And I could be wrong, because I'm not the Indiana work to do. How many people who are part of the Indiana coalition is doing it in a role that they get paid to do?
You don't get paid.
No,
Okay,
no one is selling.
Oh, I don't.
no, we don't get a salary. When we go to the tabling, that is, we receive a gift fee for our time for go to the table because we got.
Getting paid.
Hundreds.
Getting paid.
I heard you. They were part of the generic coalition.
No. The only money that Cedric and I received was from Equality Producing. And that was assisting them with some of the work to help them to run, to make sure that they had some way to place. So exactly.
And it was through the generosity of being one of our core key partners to apply for the grant outside of Virginia and getting those funds and making sure people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have received any money.
I just want to highlight, I feel like there's a.
I'm sorry to cut you off, and all of that is my biggest question. The law, but I'm actually homeless. I couldn't find safe and secure. So as much as I'm fighting for no, there's a lot of things that I can't put on the back burner. So when I say we sacrifice for Virginia, we have sacrificed for Virginia.
But also related homeless, this is why we're talking about the cost of decriminalizing.
Absolutely.
It's more than just grant money, yes, grant money is important, and I believe, I could be wrong, that Indiana coalition is receiving grant money to fund that work. It's not like Virginia got pennies.
Yeah.
It's still able to decriminalize, so that this is around the applause. Decriminalization in Virginia, but that also leads to our next question. We talk about cost a lot to organizations and leaders, but we're very highlight the community cost. And thank you, Deirdre, for being transparent with us in this moment. That part of the community cost, right? No one should have to go homeless fighting HIV criminalization. When we see the communities most impacted, how can we make sure they're protected from any additional harm while either spearheading the work, testifying in legislative committees that we know could be triggering and harmful, talking to legislatures and media, or to general community outreach and education?
I would say, we made sure that the folks that we testified had the experience, that there was support networks that were available to the needs. I'm sorry, again, I don't need enough practice. We made sure that everyone that testified that had lived experience, whether it was criminalization or HIV, that we had a support network available for them at all times. Cedric and I became the best friends during this time because we had to support each other during this time. So it was a complete support network that we created for those folks in Forest. And we were very intentional about that.
Yeah, that's. We have one more person.
I was just gonna say that I really appreciate you all to that because not a lot of coalitions take that into account, even if they name that it is re-traumatizing to tell their story. They don't have anything set up to people deal with being traumatized. So what I appreciate about the fact that you all thought that through it, because have the experience, thought that through. And I think other spaces could take note of that, because, I mean, you see people up here shedding tears, sharing their story, with me, very emotional. And then we're like, goodbye. Yeah, great, thank you so much, thank you, and we just leave it at that. So I think it's really important to just name that and to name, like, I've been in circles where like, I need to do a better job, or the coalitions I'm a part of need to do a better job in actually handling how we traumatize people by exposing them to bigoted questions and bigoted committees. People that are actively telling them that they should face criminalization, that they don't hear that they face criminalization. I mean, that's a hard thing to hear over and over again. People telling you no because they don't care, they have another bill that they have to push to something that you're so perfectly committed with. So I commend FOBA, and I want to encourage and call on other coalitions to follow suit in offering those services to people.
I briefly want to hit on the community costs component of the question and really hone in on members of FOBA coalition, especially my partner, Change My Best, Deirdre. I wanted to be almost like this protectant of all the things that are becoming the way of her or any other coalition members that testified and that, you know, positioned themselves to the public eye, being interviewed. Like, I was always very, very like, I probably got everyone's nerves because I was like, no, I don't think that this is going to be good. I don't want them to go into your, you know, your real like private life, which they will. I would be very protected and even social media, it was points in time I was like, Deidre speaks me the law off. Because we can't do this re-traumatizing cycle every single time that you're on Facebook or Twitter or anything. And also just with the social lives of the coalition members, understanding that when things do start going great, it's only going to also see negative issues that our peers or church members, if we go to church or socially in our communities, that will try to do everything in their power to make you upset and make you angry and things like that. And that's what I always was on the lookout for, protecting everybody, especially Deirdre. She know I was like, no, sorry. And I never wanted to see being like this bad person or mean person. I was only being like extra careful, because that's the community cause doing this work. Is that you are at that point the epicenter, and it can be a positive or it can be extremely damaging and negative. And if you don't consider those costs, then you're not making sure that your coalition or task force is set up for, you know, for the issue that may come. Thank you.
Thank you all for explaining that. That really need to hear that and feel that at the same time, because just as much as the people who are survivors that go through this, as much as our advocates that people that advocate on behalf, and all of us will do that together, and it is tough. So also to Deirdre and Cedric, during the latest legislative session, that was a bill that included forced HIV testing of defendants. And in the process of passing this bill, some constituents appear to be upset at Virginia's HIV laws passed. Is there backlash that state coalitions should prepare for when successfully decriminalize HIV?
Yeah. I think the smart man sitting in the back told me that everybody's got an opinion, they're like assholes, they all speak. So at the end of the day, not everybody's gonna be happy with the decision that you made. But as long as you can go to sleep knowing that you made the best decision that you could with the hands that you would help for the people that are most impacted, then you can sleep and you got another in the box. So yeah, there were a lot of people that were upset that we had to expand the sexual piece. That's what we had to do for our state. And also, when they know something, we also did this during the pandemic. So I want to find out how many states have been able to change their criminalization laws during the pandemic, where we could not meet at a state house, we could all work. And please correct me last time I checked, because of the things that we were able to do when it comes to intent. Almost everybody else is following our template. But we hear more negative than we do positive. And again, I wish the view was in the room. Because at the end of the day, we do these and make these sacrifices. And we hear more negative than we do positive, but y'all are using the other template.
Georgia, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm sorry. If I could, I wanted to touch on one additional aspect here, because I think this is it's a vigilante strategy when it comes to planning from the coalition perspective. And being very aware, informed, and knowledgeable about your state legislative system, and also ensuring that members of your coalition are spread out, planning councils, community advisory boards, community advisory groups, any sort of, area that you can have a touch point, whether it's the CFAR community council to know what the research landscape is. Every element is important, because that way you have great co-founders like this one right here, that was able to track and to know that this bill that got passed this last legislative session was on the market, and also our partners flagging it for us as well. And our partners like Positive Women's Network USA, Zero Project, and Following Virginia were vigilant with us to make sure that we were aware, educate ourselves and our members, but then also know where the foundation of this bill was, and to be prepared for the backlash. So I think that I just wanted to add that strategy piece for other recordings.
The other piece is that we were very also intentional. I know that I'm a person who did HIV Cedric is not, because we wanted to make sure, and we also wanted to help those that have reasons to prevent HIV from happening to them. So this is why we are choosing the COVID to work this thing. So we also want to make sure that it's not just about people living with HIV, but it's also about those folks that have reasons to prevent HIV. As we learn, of course, we got.
Thank you. Thank you both. Wow. I promise to tell you all about on stage, and y'all are testing this. Just some of the appreciation, but sympathy. Even though the Illinois decriminalization statute was repealed in 2021, one of the important coalitions to continue with advocacy.
Because what we do, this work that we do, whether it's in Illinois or any other state across the country, needs to be intentional. And understanding that yes, the law was passed in 2021, but we have 102 counties in Illinois. And all of them don't live in Cook County, which is where Chicago is. And so understanding that with 102 counties, that means that's 102 states attorneys, which are like district attorneys. That you need to educate them. That means there's a person living with HIV in every one of those counties that maybe didn't know that we repealed the law in 2020. And so our education continues, and we do that through tabling, we do that through webinars, we do that through education of law enforcement and state's attorneys about the impact of HIV criminalization. Because yes, we repealed the law in 2021, but we are not going to sit back and allow them to even use general criminal laws to criminalize people with HIV.
You don't have to follow me, because your coalition was going to go to well-oiled machine. I know you criticize yourself for here to talk, but also I'm going to business there. Coalition work is not perfection, right? What have you ever seen where people lead policy?
Yes.
And Timothy. The machine that you operated and helped run, distribute talking points, back to the talking points, people are modeling that in other states now. Why is it so important for us to stick to those, communication guidelines that we issue out for our states?
And all we have to do is turn on the news right now. And look at what's happening to the communities that are most impacted by HIV and HIV criminalization, and understand the need, the reason to stick to talking points. And our 3 talking points for simple as this: 1 is overly harsh, discriminatory, and stigmatizing for people living with HIV. 2, it does not keep up with current science. And I mean this, talking about the form of law. And then 3, one thing I was going to say. But it would be important to stick to those 3 talking points. It discourages tactic, which was the 3rd. We stuck to that whether we were talking to legislators, whether we were talking to legislative staff, whether we were talking to the media, whether we were talking to community, and all of our brochures, everything that we sent out or talked about this issue. We kept reiterating this, and I got really good at every question they gave me. I gave an answer to one of those topics. And that's what we have to do, because they will use this issue and try to turn it into something completely different. And we're going to be like, no, we're talking about public health. You should never be in the business of criminalizing someone's public health, period. And so I remember telling them that, and we did it. And so that's the reason why that's so important to sticking to those to bring forward home.
My last follow-up question: what all went to you developing this topic? Like, what's the genius behind it?
What was the message we were trying to get across? That's really kind of when we had our strategic planning meeting, or planning meeting. What was the major issue we were trying to get across? And so once we formulated a lot of people across the wall, and just really looked at people as people voted. This was the most important issue. This is the most important issue. This is the most important issue. And we literally just took those and made them talking. Because it resonated with the people that are part of the coalition. And if it resonated with people that were there in the coalition in one part, surely it should resonate with the people who were doing the people in the community, and with the bipartisan vote on the House and the Senate.
Thank you, Timothy, and thank you for just breaking it down and making it simple for us. Like I said, I hope people are taking notes, because they're really giving us the nuggets there, how to approach, strategy. So to Indiana, considering your state's most recent success, as you know, are doing great in coalition building and just really shifted away there in terms of the decriminalization goal there in Indiana. What does the future of advocacy look like and for decriminalizing HIV policy?
I think the simple answer to that is that advocacy looks like me. It's like no college degree, no interest in politics. That's what it looks like. Because we have to continue to not only Mark, not only Dr. Carey, but the rest of us, we have to continue to talk to our community and say, hey, this is relevant to you and this is why. And, you know, I remember just a few months ago going to a college and I was asked to speak on a panel and I literally almost had like a nervous breakdown. And, you know, Dr. Carey was like, but just tell your story. It's relevant. It's not, nobody knows the end. She was like, but they should. So, you know, and it's just like being that force to encourage people that think that this is important, that this doesn't pertain to, you know, just that constant reminder, the constant support. You know, I would say that for me, it's because it's new for me that our coalition is very good at checking me. You know, they after the panel, you know, I got phone calls and I got emails, how are you doing? How are you processing that? Okay. You know, before here, you know, I was like, sure they have to sit here and all this stuff. Because I thought it was supposed to be that. And even though she knew that I didn't need to know all of the facts, she still gave me most of the facts because that's what made me comfortable. You know. But they're just support a lot and being consistent and being persistent, being smart.
Can Dr. Carey and Mark stand up for us? Yeah, Dr. Carey and Mark said yes to that. Give them their roses.
Because if it wasn't for, accidentally, a couple people roses, if it wasn't for Timothy coming over to me at the WN summit. So first, the WN summit, we just wanted to volunteer to find out more. Two, Sarah kind of said, hey, heard you were from Virginia, come to this conference, it's called Interviews Not a Crime. And it was in 2018. And in Indiana, it was movie, and we saw Indiana University. Emotional motivation just all my life. Literally, we were motivated by you all's work, and you all staying up, and like we did last night, to honor the states. And the next day, like you all had that experience last night, as your sleep. Saturday, I did that at our first conference, which was 2018, when we actually met at that table. And that next day at lunch, we sat down and created Echo VA. So it was something you all would be working on.
And to the larger question of the future of advocacy, something that I learned in 2021. Cannot point to the lives of others if your cup is empty. And the reason why I say this is, y'all, I don't remember this. When session was done, bill was had, I spoke at the bill sign and don't remember. Because it was so exhausting. I poured so much into the work that I was not fit to do anything else. It literally didn't come out of the stupor until like October. November. So there were like several months, I don't even remember. And so all of that to say is the future of advocacy is do what you can while you can, and that's enough. That's enough.
Last question that I heard them by, I want to uplift freedom of the home in the house, and they have a question for start, they provide them. In some states like Oklahoma, they don't like public comment, they don't allow public comments during their hearings. In what other ways can a state coalition uplift storytelling by people with lived experience if, you know, you're not allowed to testify by public?
So one method could be designing a letter to your representatives campaign, and that way, depending on what district you are in the state of Oklahoma, a letter could be, a template letter could be designed by the coalition. And in each different stories, it doesn't have to be one story for every letter, maybe you choose 5 for this campaign, and you could basically tailor, you know, throughout the different districts, these different 5 stories, have the letters go out, and of course, their duty is to respond to it. Whether it's a very, you know, a truncated statement that they use for everything, you can follow up by calling. It's so many tactics and strategies, and that's just one that I can think of to make sure that experience and storytelling is being done for all of them. Thank you.
One thing I would add is the power of social media. We give social media a bad rap because sometimes it is spiritual. Both sides here. But when you're trying to do great advocacy, storytelling is an effective way. Social media is an effective way to really get on great storytelling for people with experience. So what I was just gonna get what you do in your coalition is literally just them, you know, get them their own phone, do a couple of minute video. Someone in the coalition or someone else, someone can splice that together and put something together. And just start sharing that on the internet. And that would be powerful. People's experiences in their story are always powerful.
And there's 2 examples I actually want to give. I was looking for my favorite Virginia living in Idaho, Kevin. He gave away his cookies. You can tell me about that. He gave away cookies, and they were in the shape of Idaho, and they said that something along the lines of Kentucky.com, and they had a static display. With the static display, it would be something like what we have here. That's the first part of the Justice Cooperative. They had just posters that were up, and then they had cookies on the TV. And folks were able to come and pick up a cookie. Who doesn't love cookies? Our cookie life. It was beautiful. Folks were able to read the sign. If you had any questions, guess what? We had folks be on. Some of the things that we did is we had a text message, a whole text stream. If it was happening, I know one of the things we had to make a decision less than 24 hours. And in that less than 24 hours, we took a whole text stream, like, yo, this is what's going on, this is what we need, how do people feel, what are your thoughts, what do you all want to do? And we actually had to respond before we would make a decision on that, and not just taking what their thoughts and their ideas into account. So it wasn't just although you see us too, there are other people behind us, and we have to make sure that they were okay with the decision that they asked us to.
Thank you. So for our concluding question, I think you learned just on this as well. What should be the next step after decriminalizing HIV in your state? And also, what forms of community education are needed to make sure the community knows some of these problems?
We have something in Pulliam called HIV Care Connect, which are basically districts of case managers, HIV case managers across the state. And so one of the things that we did once we passed the law is work directly with case managers, because a part of the law that we have in the books was that HIV case managers had to tell people living with HIV about this form of law. So one of the first things that I was happy to do is tell case managers, y'all ain't got to do this shit. I'm really happy to do that. So that was one. Two is doing, as I mentioned earlier, community education. Doing the webinars, doing, talks with state's attorneys, chief of police, all of the things. And talking with the community always. Actually, planning another webinar right now. So still trying to keep it going.
And I would say normalize these conversations. My stage name is not even speaks for a reason. I talk about this in the grocery store. I talk about it at the Uber. I've had so much more conversations about HIV and legalization with Uber. I've worked at my HIV legalization. I see you work up at Teflon. See my red glasses. Why do you wear those? So, oh, your name is on, what does you speak? And I started to talk about your stories and the things that you all do in order to move this movement forward. And you can be criminalized for that. Sometimes I might use like it's on a good day. And then the movie is moving. Disclose in Virginia, but I also like to make other people aware in other states. So I actually like to find out what are other states' laws, so that when the titties is tittying and the booty's booty, and I decide to pop up on things.
Just what you wanted to hear, huh?
Bring your parents to conferences, do these. And outside, and I actually want to make a comment, actually, in the cafeteria, the woman that was making our sandwiches actually stopped me as the infamous train was going by, and I was on camera, and she said, "I don't know if you all here for work. And what's going on? And tell me more about it. You guys are so excited. What do I tell you?" I got right before in 3-minute elevator speech that we talk about. In those 3 minutes, I was able to let her know. And by the way, I was telling her about what was going on, to come by and have a visit and find out more about this. So start doing this. We have grandkids, we have nieces, we have nephews, we have grandmas that have sex. And have that at your any conversation. Hey, I had a great time in today. Actually had a conversation on the other day. We need to make sure that if there are people that have to go to the doctor and don't know, we need to also let them know, hey, have you checked your HIV criminalization laws in your state lately? So those are things that we need to normalize on the regular, we have to find. We will operate a whole guy. By opening your mouth, and letting words out. So in life, there's power, it's life and death lives in the power of the tongue. So in order to get it out, you got to speak the word, you're supposed to hear it, to find out whether or not they want to live or whether or not they want to die.
Yes, I think, since we are in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in this great 105, I think the realities of preparation and forecasting for task forces and coalitions are so important. During the time of our passage of the bill and it came into law, we had a very democratic state. And since then, our state was ready for the first time in many years, many gubernatorial elections here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think one element that is super critical that ECHO-VA coalition is focusing on is voter and political mobilization for the communities most impacted by HIV throughout our state, and our coalition members, and expanding our networks with political advocacy organizations, political organizations throughout the state to really start gearing ourselves up, because in order for us to make any more change, or if we wanted to do a repeal, we have to get our state back to a democratic state, mainly because that's the only way it's possibly going to happen. And so I think that's important for forecasting of your coalition to remember what your political reality is, and making sure that you're advocating for voter and political mobilization throughout your coalition and throughout the social networks that your coalition has. Thank you.
I just want to add another thing. I think, you know, as the coalition has got to start, you know, addressing stigma. Because stigma is a big reason why people won't join, why people don't want to be the voice, why people don't want to be the face, including myself for a very, very long time. So until we constantly start to address stigma and start breaking those things down, then like they'll never be true success, because you need everybody. And so, you know, again, it's like stigma, it's like the key hot word right now, but like it should be. Absolutely, it should be.
I just want to avoid some audience questions there. Everyone knows I'm leaving setting expectations. Don't get mad. We got 10 minutes for you all to ask the questions. Calendar. We have 10 minutes, so keep our answers brief. And then we have the last 5 minutes for announcements. We all cool and clear?
Yeah.
First one.
Hola a todas, todos y todas. Soy Hicks de Guatemala. Agradecer mucho a INAC por haberme invitado.
Hi everybody, my name is Stacy and I'm so thankful. Thank you, Hannah, for inviting me. I'm from Guatemala.
Quiero felicitarlos y en realidad ver una coalición con una mujer trans viene de mucha alegría.
I'm going to thank you all, and seeing a coalition where there are trans women fills me with so much joy.
Porque la descriminalización será trans o no será.
Be trans or it won't happen at all.
En mi país somos la población más afectada, con un 24% de prevalencia.
In my country, we are the most affected population with 24% prevalence.
Por eso creo que es importante que las mujeres trans tomemos en estos paneles la voz para poder decirle a las personas cuáles son nuestras afectaciones y cómo es que la gente tiene que respetarnos, porque el respeto no solo es traernos aquí, el respeto es traernos aquí y respetarnos también.
And that's why it's so important for trans women to be here, because we also have to be respected. And we don't just have to arrive here to be respected, we also have to be respected as we're here.
El ejercicio de ustedes está dando la pauta para que otros movimientos sean inclusivos, sigan haciendo lo que hacen, porque desde otros países los estamos viendo y estamos aprendiendo de ustedes. Muchísimas gracias.
And please keep doing what you're doing, because we're watching you from other countries and we're taking notes. So thank you so much.
Next one.
Yeah. My name is Marcy, and I actually have a question for Cedric and Deidre. Virginia residents. I know that the stigma is real in this state, to the point that the career providers even graduated and make it. Trying to be nice. I'm trying to prove my speech is Deidre. How can you work around that? Because that's a problem to some degree in most states with the stigma. It's really real here, but you manage to get around it and actually pull from people their responses. How do you do that?
One, we used a document that, well, Vicky's not here, but, Vicky Lynn created, and that's the Language Matters document. And we not only, when we would go out and educate about the laws that were before we changed them and then after we changed them, but we also brought up Language Matters. We also made sure that we not only spoke to legislators, community members, but we also spoke to people living with HIV as well. Honestly, on our planning group in Virginia, the several folks have heard some things. We're actually called consumers, and we're encouraged to be called consumers by the Department of Health. So there's great people by the way who speaks that sucks that system and actually gets on those community calls and lets them know that we are people living with HIV. We are not consumers. I'm going to my healthcare provider because I'm a person living with HIV, and you need to treat folks as such. And you can tell them that the most happiest folks when they come into the world, so they take up the street now. So that is one way that we have been able to do that, as well as also educating other people and community members about language and language matters, about why that's important.
I think my story respond to that very quickly. One of our coalition members is actually a social worker and medical assistant. And what he did is that he got a whole group of them together and he contacted INMAC and had INMAC come in to do that training on stigma.
I'm curious, sorry, my name is Aaron Moore. I'm curious to know if there has been any thought about activating these networks and these coalitions that have built about other criminalization, the criminalization of trans people, the criminalization of drag for crying out loud. Don't mess with the drag queens, the drag. Feelings you can get hurt, they just don't know. But anyway, if
This on, okay. We try. It does not always work, but we do try. We realize the intersectional nature of our work. In some of the coalitions I'm involved, we have individuals that do hepatitis work in states where hepatitis is criminalized. We also have individuals that are part of Sprint Access. They'll come into the group. But I will say, in my experience, that's been about as far as our collaboration extends. I will also say it is difficult when you're being attacked on all fronts and trying to put out those fires. People only have so much mental and physical capacity to do that. And so it's a little hard when, you know, if they're attacking the drag, we have specific legislation to that, to be involved in those cases. But if not for a lack of trying, but I'm also acknowledging that I understand why.
yeah, I was just gonna add, the Illinois HIV Action Alliance is kind of being created, and it was more so around decriminalization of the wild phase, of course, HIV being the main one. But we're working with the decriminalization of drugs in Illinois, working on overdose prevention sites legislation, so it is a lot, more intersectional and intentional about the efforts we're.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a question, but Ms. Flow, you said something that resonated with me. When you said advocacy looks like me, and you said that you don't have a college degree, I face that a lot as a young person, and love you are such an inspiration. So I want to give you your flowers while you're here.
All right, we got final words from Mark.
Y'all for me, can we give it up again? That was the perfect segue to what I want to talk about. We need to give each other a flower while we're here. So I want to have an officer and memorial and we put this one. But we also want to give flowers now. We need to give us smell them and feel them and hear them and embrace them now. Which is why I would remind you, the hospitality lounge has artsy crafts. You don't have to be an artist, but they have an opportunity to cut out flowers, write messages, there's more, you can make flowers to your other HIV conferences and meetings. I think they have me doing to also.
Sign the banner.
What?
Sign the banner.
Some error, we apologize. But there's a banner there, say their names, you can write the names of your loved one on that as well. And I will post a notice in the hospitality lounge of another opportunity or surprise, someone special that could be here with us. And there's other additional evening activities that we need to announce in addition to, well, first, I don't tell you, don't even.
Yes.
Okay. Have certificate hosted no, sorry, give us people that want to try to eat pockets. That's being posted in Fires 208. So the certificate. We have libations. Maybe. Fires, build the fires, building and room 208. I will slow down. There's karaoke hosted by Deirdre and the band that building where we have our meals and the board of the consumers lounge, which is kind of like the big booking room. And then we have a long-term survivors room that's in Myers Hall, the Myers building, room 216. And then we also have in the hospitality lounge a bullying unpacking after the session. So those who were in bully or missed bully identify as Black and want to come back into all Black event space and the people, you will be in the hospitality lounge as well. But also if you're in the hospitality lounge as well. Okay, so hospitality lounge is like everything. Yes, you can take your crafts into another state. So all of that goes down at 9:30. Your friends at 9, please take care of yourself. Remember the communities report line. Don't have the number in front of you. Remember that line. If you need to or talk, please call that line, reach out to someone. Enjoy, take care, and rest is that. Wellness meetup is at 6 a.m. with the beautiful Anthony Tapia and the Vandy building at night.